Welcome on into a President's Day. We are live and lots of news to talk about. By the way, coming up at 7:35, we've got the TVA up to their old hijinks and shenanigans again. You know what they're doing now? There's a farm, and it's in Sumner County. And this is a multi-generational farm. They've been farming this land for, I think, seven generations, 8 generations. And the TVA wants to put one of those massive, transmission lines or a bunch of them on this property. And the farmers were like, what the heck? They come out and they start surveying or whatever. And now we've got county commissioners that are getting involved. John Rich is getting involved because he's like a one-man mission, against the TVA. And I think it's a fascinating story about how this, these farmers in Sumner County, they're having to battle the TVA. And it's like the TVA, and this is maybe unfair, but it's like they just show up and they just start trying to abscond with people's land. Now, there was some communication involved. We're going to get through the whole thing coming up at 7:35. Really, really interesting story, and looking forward to that discussion coming up here on Nashville's Morning News. So AOC, Joan and Sam, she was asked a question. I'm not sure exactly where she was, but she was asked a question about China and Taiwan, and it did not go well for AOC.
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is this is, of course, a very longstanding policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
So that was pretty rough.
That was not presidential, I would say, Dan.
To be fair, she probably thought boots on the ground was a cocktail.
So she was at the Munich Security Conference. Now, can I just say that if you're going to the Munich Security Conference, you better know the various issues. And if you're going to be up, she's on some sort of a panel, and there's all these people around her that had to be just wanting to jump in to rescue her. But if you're going to be on a panel at the Munich Security Conference, know your stuff. And you're right. Who was it, Joan? Joan said that doesn't sound presidential?
Because all they actually do there is, it's a lot of puffing up their chests and saying, hey, look at me, I'm presidential. And she didn't appear that way.
No, is that what they do at the Munich Security Conference?
That's all it's about. It's just about appearing there. It's like Davos,
Well, then why is Hillary there?
Yeah, exactly.
You think Hillary's going to run again?
I think
There's no way. How old is she now?
Even if she doesn't run again, she wants to posit herself as being capable of, if any of you messes up, I could jump in and take over,
Oh, she could save the day.
I've got a hot take on that. I think she'll be a VP candidate for whoever they thrust on the libs this time. Because then they'll say that they have the historical presence of a former first lady and former presidential candidate herself.
I don't think that Hillary would take, and I could be wrong on this. Joan, you let me know if I'm wrong. But I think that Hillary's ego will not allow her to be a VP candidate. That's my hot take.
I think you're absolutely right. She thinks she is the boss.
Well, no, clearly it's AOC who's the boss.
Yeah.
By the way, people, I just played you the AOC audio. People are comparing it to that ill-fated Miss South Carolina 2007 in the Miss Teen USA.
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere such as, and
Oh my gosh.
Had you heard this before?
I have.
Okay, I may be the only one in the world that has not heard this before.
I believe
Such as?
that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. Or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries. So we will be able to build up our future.
Wow.
She sounded better than AOC, though.
Yeah.
You know the Pam from The Office meme. It's like they're the same picture. It's the same audio track in my mind.
That was bad. Who sounded worse, AOC or Miss South Carolina 2007?
AOC.
I don't even know. Well, okay. Here's what I'm going to say. My hot takes, is we're going to talk about hot takes. I expect more from AOC. Yeah. Now, maybe stupidly enough, but girlfriend, AOC, if you're going to put yourself at the Munich security conference, then you got to know your stuff. I mean, fair or not, I don't expect a lot from a beauty pageant, Miss Teen USA. I just don't.
Miss South Carolina.
And I don't. And honestly, I think it's stupid that they ask them those questions.
Yes.
Like, that is so unfair. How do you study for that? If you are, you either know stuff or you don't. You know what I mean? Like, you're either interested in it or you're not. And I think that puts them, unless you can somehow wind it all the way over towards, wanting world peace, you're just putting them in a terrible position. And I don't think that's fair.
They don't ask male bodybuilders these questions at their competitions.
Do you remember when they asked one of the candidates, because they knew her stance that she was a Christian, what she felt about gay marriage, I guess it was. And then the nation just skewered her for her response.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Because she said marriage is between a man and a woman. And I mean, it's really a platform. It has nothing to do with these, like, showing the girls all around. It's supposed to show how they're well-rounded. They're not just beautiful, but they also have brains. But what it does is it's ridiculous.
Well, it's not fair.
Right.
Like, I just you're putting them in an impossible position. Apparently, also, AOC said that whiteness is an imaginary thing.
Yes.
Have you heard? All right, so we're going to play that. So AOC, and I have not heard this audio. It's fun with audio, so I haven't heard this. Let's listen to what AOC has to say about whiteness.
There's a very big difference between whiteness and national, like your actual culture, right?
No, I did. Okay. I feel like I want to go through this one sentence at a time. So, did you understand that, Joan?
I didn't. I'd like to hear it back, yeah.
Okay, here, let's play it one more time.
There's a very big difference between whiteness and national, like your actual culture, right?
Did anybody ever say that? So she's making whiteness a culture.
Is that what she's trying to do?
I think, yeah.
Is she trying to say that, whiteness is not part of America? Is that what she's saying?
I think so. It's not enough for you to be white. Like, I'm white, you're white,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
It's not enough to be white. Whiteness is that mindset that you are smart, that you strive to use the English language in such a way as for people to understand you.
Is that what she's saying?
That you learn math. Right. So it's people who have whiteness.
Oh, by the way, Joan, there's a lot of people that would say that what you just said is racist. The math is racist. That speaking properly is racist.
Being on time is racist.
Being on time. Remember all those stupid... Oh, my goodness gracious. Can you look up, Sam, since you're online real quick, can you look up what AI or whatever says about whiteness?
Ooh, that would be good.
Yeah, because I'm just... sometimes...
whiteness is not the color of your skin. It's like... It's a culture of, like, the thought and what you do and how you... Like, if you have a family, if there's a mother, father, kids, you live in a house...
Right.
That's being white, too.
Do you know what I believe, Joan?
Yeah.
I believe that I am not dumb enough to understand AOC, which, by the way, is saying a lot. All right. Did you find whiteness?
Yeah, whiteness is a sociological and critical theory concept referring to the social construct of white racial identity and the systems of power, privilege, and norms associated with it. It is not merely about skin color or biology, but about how whiteness functions historically and to today positions people categorized as white as the default, normal, or superior standard in many societies, particularly in the U.S., Europe, and colonial context, while marginalizing others. So it goes on to say that the structural advantage is a racial privilege.
So in other words, it's a bunch of BS, hoity-toity.
All of the cultural norms that we accept in this country are attributed to whiteness.
Whatever.
It's stuff that just, I mean, you need to wrap a duct tape around your head to hold it in because it's just so stupid.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like,
Yeah.
I just believe that all of this stuff is illogical.
Yeah.
And this is why people graduate college and their heads are just, they're full of all this muck and gunk and they can't actually, go out and earn a living. Some. All right, you want to hear the rest of this?
Yeah.
I don't know if I do.
Whiteness is an imaginary thing. Being German is real. Being Italian is real. Being English.
What about just being American?
How about, can you be American?
Can I just be an American along with my black friends and my Hispanic friends and
Just your friends.
Yeah,
they
just my
don't even
friends.
have to be categorized.
Right. I mean, just stop it already.
These are rich cultural heritages that are based on values, and they are so much a part of what make our cultures and our societies what they are.
All right, says AOC.
So I asked Grok, what are other symptoms of whiteness besides being good at math and being on time? And it said perfectionism, defensiveness or denial, criticism of power structures or racism is seen as threatening or rude. Quantity over quality, prioritizing measurable outputs and content over process, relationships, or emotions. Worship of written word. If it's not documented or written, it doesn't count. Paternalism, either or binary thinking, power hoarding, fear of open conflict, progress defined as more, right to comfort, and fear. Those are all power structures within whiteness, according to critical theory.
All right.
Somebody said you need to Google the Smithsonian flyer that described white culture.
It's from that. It is
Okay.
Other sources.
Rocco
examples,
says AOC's head is full of caca.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the aspects and assumptions of whiteness, Joan, is what you're talking about from the Smithsonian graphic.
Yes.
Anyway, whatever. Hey, Wilson County. I want to mention this. So Wilson County, they had their big walkout the other day.
Yeah, the kids in the schools, right?
So the kids in the schools walk out. Wilson County. Where I live in Mount Juliet, there's a bunch of kids apparently right there at the corner of Lebanon Road and Mount Juliet Road, right? So that's where like the Starbucks is. That's in front of the Publix and McDonald's and all that. Apparently there's a lot of kids out there. A number of things happened on social media over the weekend. Number one, there were these stories about how, one guy supposedly showed up with a gun. That was not true. There was another story about where there were some of these teenagers or whatever that are flipping somebody off. I don't know if that was true, if this stuff is doctored. One of the things that did happen, because there's video out there, is some dude apparently shows up and starts like jawing or fighting. I don't know if he threatened the kids or what have you. I don't know if the kids, because I saw photographs of some of these kids throwing the middle finger at people driving by. Apparently people were driving by and yelling at the kids, right? And, my take on this whole thing is if they want to go out there and the cops were there and they were like, you have to stay on the sidewalk. So they did everything correctly. But here's what I would say is if somebody is driving by and yelling at these kids or showing up and yelling at these kids basically because they have their own opinion, all you're doing is you are pushing them further and further away from our side, if you will, which is we want, legal immigration. we want, secure borders and all of that. And these kids believe that they don't. These kids believe that, it's okay to break our laws and anti-ICE and all that kind of stuff. But I think if you show up and if you want to like get in their face and yell at them and all that, all you're doing is you're pushing them further away from our side because you're forcing them back into a corner. Now, I would be interested to know, okay, well then if this is your opinion, then you're anti-ICE, well then it's like what we talked about, I think on Friday, where I talked about a family friend whose 12-year-old daughter is going over to the dark side and, Donald Trump is trash and all of these other things. Well, it's the same thing here, where if you show up and you're yelling at these kids just because they have a difference of opinion, don't yell at them because they're going to yell at you back. Don't flip them off because they're just going to flip you off. And by the way, reminder, our president has a history of flipping people off, right? So if you want to go up and you want to talk to them, I think that's perfectly fine. I don't know if anybody did walk up and try to talk to them. This was going on, I guess all across Wilson County. I have no idea. There's a lot of accusations as far as, what they did, what other people did, the arguing back and forth. I don't know. I don't know if anybody was arrested or whatever. I have not seen that somebody was arrested, but I guess a guy did walk up rather menacingly at, some of these kids. And I don't think that if you're going to walk up and challenge them in that kind of a way, that you're going to be able to speak rationally to them because they're going to react to you in just this. They're going to match your energy. So I don't know. I saw all this stuff over the weekend and people criticizing the reaction to the kids protesting. And I just think, listen, if they want to protest, knock themselves out. If that's what they want to do, they're learning their right to free speech, their right to assemble, and all of that. And remember how I learned my path to conservatism wasn't by my father yelling at me or grounding me or, screaming at me because I was a progressive. My dad talked to me about issues along the way in a very calm manner, and we spoke about the issues, and eventually my life's journey led me to conservatism. I can almost guarantee you a lot of those kids who are out there, they're probably going to end up having the same journey as I did.
Yeah, similar. I think one of the things that is a reality check for just high schoolers in general, I'm sure you both can, remember far back into your memory banks that no one cares what teenagers think. I'm just like, there's, I remember being 16, 17, and 18 and thinking that my opinions were worthwhile. And they're not, especially when they're force-fed to you through an education system that's been corrupted by these woke teachers that think they need to impress what they believe onto their kids instead of teaching them, the curriculum within a classroom. So it's that reality will also set in of, man, I was a dumb teenager that thought my opinions were worth more to adults than they actually were.
I would be interested to know if, you have these anti-ICE protests that were out there. I wonder if anybody's thought about having a pro-ICE protest. I would like to see that.
You know what? We get a snow cone cart.
Yeah, we could get in and out with one of their in and out trucks, and we could go out there and we could have a pro-ICE
ICES
protest. Yes,
ICES.
That's exactly what we do. Sumner County Commissioner Jeremy, always great to have you on. And it sounds like the TVA is up to their old hijinks and shenanigans. And so I want to try to set the stage here. The Gregory family has been on this same farm for 7 or 8 generations, many generations. And the TVA comes along and they want to put one of these massive, towers of, is it a communication tower, Jeremy? And they show up and they want to start surveying the land for these massive towers on the Gregory land. And the Gregory family, again, farmers for multiple generations on this land, they're like, what are you doing? And to me, and there's more to the story, but to me, it just sounds like the TVA is trying to bully their way onto this land.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, like you said before, this is a multi-generational farm. It goes back to a Revolutionary War land grant from 1787.
Wow.
And it has been continuously farmed ever since then. And it's not just an active working farm, cattle farm. It's also an active agricultural education site that serves roughly 300 kids per year through homeschool and farm-based programs. And even worse, TVA is proposing trying to put 10 of these high voltage transmission structures on their property with approximately 16 ground anchors and gas systems embedded into active farmland. And so these aren't just your normal neighborhood utility poles. These are 100+ foot steel transmission structures that have heavy foundations and guy wires grounding them, running across agricultural land. And basically their proposed route would be an industrial infrastructure cutting through this working farm and a creek corridor, tearing down trees along the creek where they do their active homeschooling co-op programs. And so it's a pretty egregious reach by TVA. I know you'd asked, like, they didn't ask permission to come on the land, really. They just kind of showed up. They technically did ask permission, but the story is that they didn't think that they could say no. I know one of the neighbors of the Gregory's, she basically literally thought that she couldn't say anything at all, and she told them, and they asked if it was okay to come on her land, and she said she didn't think she had a choice. Mm-hmm. And so she gave them permission. And that's kind of the same with the Gregory's, they realized a while back, but it's just one of those things where these farmers and these landowners just don't know what their rights are, and they don't know what they can say and what they can't say when TVA just shows up with no notice in a truck and says, "Hey, I'm here."
Well, and these lines, you said it, 100 feet in the air. They are ugly, and I would assume, although I don't know, but it would impact their farming as well. And so, how transparent have the TVA been about their plans? I mean, was there any communication between the Gregory family and the TVA? It sounds like there was. And the TVA, basically, are they trying to say, well, you had your chance to say no?
No. Well, basically, there was one communication sent out in the spring of 2024, 2 years ago. And it was kind of just one of these blanket community letters. Went out to all the neighbors in the area. And it literally said, one of the possible alternative line routes may be on or near property that you own. And that's all the letter said, essentially. And then it kind of talked about a bunch of other stuff and an open house thing, and you can come to it. And honestly, they just didn't pay that much attention to it because it didn't specifically talk about them. And they weren't thinking about it. Again, they're actively farming. The couple who would be affected, the son, John Gregory, and he and his wife, they homeschool their kids. They're active farmers. They're working 7 days a week, busting their butt out there. And so they just didn't think much of it. And then out of nowhere, this past fall, in September, October, TVA just showed up, this one guy in a truck, and said, "Hey, I'm here to survey." And they're like, for what? Because like, what's going on?
Right.
And there was no letters, no permission asked, really, no plans were given, no maps, no engineering drawings, no data, nothing. And that's the first they'd heard of it when somebody showed up in a truck on their property, which is kind of what happened in Cheatham County a little bit. Minus the guns.
It sounds like they're preying on the naivete of the farmers. And when I say naivete, I don't mean that from I'm not insulting the farmers. I'm saying I wouldn't know, So it sounds like, number one, the communication was sort of hidden in plain sight, if you will. It's almost like reading the fine print. That's number one. And number two, the farmers, they're busy just in a very challenging environment, by the way, for cattle farmers and beef farmers, where they're just trying to pay the bills, and they get this sort of vague email or whatever it is from the TVA. And so now they're stuck in this situation. Have they said to you, by the way, Jeremy Mansfield is joining us, a Sumner County Commissioner. Have the Gregory family, have they said how this would actually impact their ability to farm?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it greatly impacts their ability to farm because it splits their kind of their farm in half right there, where even close to their house, maybe a couple hundred yards away from their actual house, right there. And it's not just the poles themselves; it's those anchor points and guy lines that come down that have to anchor these poles. So you can imagine that coming down at an angle. you've got farm equipment that you're trying to get around, and you're disturbing the soil and cattle. I mean, and this land's pretty historic from an aspect that they have dug up themselves and found several feet thick of burn, like just ash that would have been probably from Indian burn piles and probably from forging instruments and tools when they lived in they have multiple arrowheads and a lot of Native American artifacts there. Civil War artifacts as well. They found a lot of period pieces. And so there's active historic cemetery there on their property that dates back to generations. So there's a lot of things that would disturb, not just from an economic impact for them and a farming impact, but definitely historic and cultural impact as well. And, you know, you brought the point that the TVA just shows up, and that's where the point that hits, because you got a federal authority shows up with a truck and a surveyor, and you think the average landowner assumes that resistance is futile. And so that imbalance is what matters, because farmers, as you said, they're not regulatory attorneys. They are producers. They're out there producing food for our families and for our economy. And they don't know what their rights are necessarily. When the big government man shows up on the property, what are you going to do? They just know that, hey, I'm the little guy here, and what can I say to them? And so I think when that communication feels one-sided, people feel steamrolled and kicked to the curb. And that's not just the Gregory's, that's their neighbors. They've shared testimony from their neighbors, and literally the lady said, their neighbor, when they asked her if they can come on, she literally told them, well, I don't have a choice. And they didn't push back on that. TVA didn't correct her. They didn't sit down and say, here's your rights. Here's what we have planned for your land. Here's how tall this is. Here's how wide the clearing is. Here's where these anchors are going to go. Yep. That level of clarity has not occurred until after we've gone public with this week.
So I guess part of my question is there another place that they can put these 10 100-foot towers? Is there another place that they can put them?
Absolutely. The family absolutely feels so, because TVA has a map for it's called this is being called like a proposed 109 substation. And there's an existing easement about a mile and a half north of these family farm properties that goes back to the 70s, where the TVA had gotten easement rights for what's now the defunct Hartsville nuclear power plant. And so those easements still exist way further north, and there's already some lines, I think, running in with that was part of the Facebook data center. Here we go, these data centers. And that was part of that. So what TVA could do is go back to their easement that they exist for them, and they could run down what's Highway 109, which is public domain at this point, and the CSX Railroad runs right next to it. So you got 109 as well as a CSX Railroad that they could use their existing north easement point running over and going back towards west, and then south down 109 back into Gallatin. And so that's definitely a route that they could take, where it doesn't invade anybody's farmland. It doesn't go across anybody's property, where rights haven't already been given back in the 70s as far as the easement for this. Yeah. And you wouldn't disturb any of their neighbors. And so that's the best route. Of course, for TVA, it's going to be a longer route. But I mean, you're talking about the TVA and say, hey, here's a farmer. We're doing this for new development and growth that these people didn't want to begin with. And they're not a part of the city. They're only a part of the county. So they don't have representation or voice because of this. And they're getting screwed because of it. And so rightly so, neighbors are ticked.
I would be angry as well. Are they going to need to hire lawyers? I mean, what's their mindset right now? Because, as you know, lawyers are very expensive.
Well, I don't think so right now. I've been, John Rich has been amazing to work with and reached out about this. And as you know, he had the huge battle in Cheatham County last summer with the TVA, and what the TVA was doing there was way more egregious, showing up with basically their own police force in full tactical gear and armed to the hilt, and going to Old Granny's Farms. And so John did tell me that he has been speaking with Laura Campbell, who's a senior VP of TVA, and kind of back channeling with her, and that they're aware of the Gregory's announcement of no consent. And, as most people might or might not be aware that this week John has been basically put on a task force from the USDA, their lawfare task force that Trump has kind of gotten initiated at John's request, and kind of to be as a liaison between the USDA, between farmers and landowners, between legal teams, and between the TVA to try to stop these types of egregious land grabs from the TVA. And I think, John said in one of his videos, I was watching last night with my mother, who's 88 years old and wanted to know what was going on. They have almost 300,000 acres of their own land in the state of Tennessee itself, and here they are trying to take other people's private property, and they shouldn't be doing that. And so I don't think right now they would need legal, hopefully, because from what John was telling me, because I know the USDA's legal team is on this, and there's a website that they set up, usda.gov/lawfare, where property owners all across the heartland can go in and just give a report like, hey, they're trying to do this to me, or this has happened to me, because they're trying to build a database and a case, a use case scenario of where this is happening, where they're trying to make this happen, how they can stop this in the future, and try to get TVA under control. Because like John says, TVA is a socialist entity that was created under FDR in the 30s. Yep. They have no oversight from Congress. I mean, it's just the president appoints the board, and that's it. And they can run ramshot over here if they want to. And they have their own freaking police force. I mean, that blew me away, the fact that they have their own police force that they can just go bully landowners and show up whenever they want to.
So how are the Gregory family? They've got to feel better now that they've got you, Jeremy Mansfield, County Commissioner, and John Rich on their side. Is there anything important that we have missed in this interview that people need to know? I mean, John Rich is a one-man TVA wrecking crew. I love that he's been standing up for folks.
You're right. I mean, John's a force to be reckoned with, and he's been absolutely fantastic and just super helpful, kind of leading and guiding us in this process. And the family's extremely thankful to John. They definitely want to shake his hand and thank him for this. But the strongest thing is that, when government, the problem here is really when government growth collides with generational farmland, the farmers should not automatically lose. And that's what's been happening, is that the farmers losing. And the most egregious part of this, it really comes down to uncontrolled growth, as we're experiencing all throughout the greater Nashville region. And you have people showing up to city councils and town halls and their county commissions just beating on the podium saying, stop approving new high-density residential development. And these city councils aren't listening to it. And so the whole reason for these transmission lines, according to the TVA letter from 2024, it says is to supply the area's growing demand for power. And so Gallatin has requested it, and the project's going to provide power for a growing load. Well, it all comes down to political will. These politicians get in there, and they're funded by developers. They're funded by real estate agents and realtor PACs and developer PACs. And they get their bought and paid for politician in there who will rubber stamp everything they do. And the citizens just feel absolutely curb stomped and just kicked in the groin over this. Month after month, week after week, year after year. And so this is all about Gallatin's irresponsible growth. And my late mentor, Mo Taylor, said from the floor of the commission, literally, quote, Gallatin is killing us with their growth. Well, Gallatin is killing this family farm with their growth. This is a substation for a new mega development that's just south about a mile or so from this farm. And so, but that comes down to political will. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I blame the politicians and their financial backers for this, because they're the ones that requested the TVA come in there and do this because of their reckless rezoning and irresponsible growth. And so that's what makes me the most fired up, and as well as the citizens.
Jeremy, will you let me know of any developments on this? Because I feel for the Gregory family. They got a farm back to the Revolutionary War, and the TVA just wants to come in here and trample on it and put up these godforsaken towers. Will you keep us updated on how this goes?
Absolutely, be happy to. And like John and I are waiting to hear back. I know that he's had several people reach out to him about this from higher levels, and so the family sent a certified letter to TVA. They're sending, and they've sent the no consent video that John shared, and so we're just waiting to hear back from TVA right now. But we absolutely will keep you posted. Okay, and if when people, because the Gregory family did a video which I thought was great. Where can they see that video? Is it on your social media? It's on John. I gave it to John. So you go to John Rich's X account, and I think he's got it pinned at the top. And so go follow John, and he's got it shared out right there, and it's definitely gotten some traction.
All right. Thank you very much, Jeremy. And again, as I said, keep us updated. Just TVA, man, come on. Just put it on 109 and leave people's farms alone. 7:55. Joan has the news coming up at 8. Joan.
Yeah, coming up here in the news, a former police officer arrested and jailed. We'll tell you why. Also, the one thing that you will not see at Mardi Gras this time around. Those stories and more at 8 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Beads.
Well, sort
of. Are the
of.
beads going away?
Well,
because without beads, there's no flashing, and then it's just not Mardi Gras.
Okay, good.
Sorry.
You had to take it right down that path, Dan.
Listen, you mentioned Mardi Gras. That's the first thing that I think of.
Of course.
Because apparently I'm a dirty old man moving right along.